Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We hope that you subscribe to the show. There's so many places to subscribe to the show. You know all about iHeartRadio, but there are a lot of smaller platforms out there you can subscribe to us on too, like Podbean or Podcast Addict or Spotify. Well, I guess Spotify is not small, but you get the idea. We are all over the place, and we hope you subscribe. Our guest today is Aditi Wardhan Singh, and she is the author of Strong Roots, Have No Fear. Before Aditi joins us, I want to let you know that I must have strong roots because I have absolutely no fear. I'm filled with excitement about the upcoming Chicago Toy and Game Fair happening really soon, November 23rd and 24th on Navy Pier in Chicago. It's going to be a blast. Kids are going to have a chance to play with life-size toys and games. You're going to have a chance to meet inventors and authors, and you're going to have a chance to maybe be on a future episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. That's right. You can meet me and be interviewed for a future episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's all happening at the Reading with Your Kids booth at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair. And check this out. If you go to chitag.com, CHITAG.com, use the promo code RWYK at checkout, and you can save $3 on every ticket you purchase. And check this out. There's no limit as to how many tickets you can purchase. Buy a dozen, buy 2 dozen, buy 3 dozen. You can save $3 on every one of those tickets. Check it out today. ChiTag.com. Use the promo code RWYK. I'll be looking for you at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, November 23rd and 24th on beautiful Navy Pier. Joining us on the line right now from Richmond and Virginia. Really excited. This author is, and what we're talking about today is near and dear to my heart. We're talking about a book that was written for parents that will help families. The name of the book is Strong Roots, Have No Fear. And our guest today is the author, Aditi Wardhan Singh. Aditi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Well, I am really exciting. Aditi is also the driving force behind a great website called Raising World Children. And anybody who has listened to more than probably 30 or 40 seconds of my show know that this, the idea of raising our kids to understand that they are living in a big, beautiful world and that their world extends beyond their neighborhood, beyond the little block or cul-de-sac that they live, beyond their city or country, and that we are all part of this amazingly wonderful and diverse world. And, so having you on is really exciting for me.
Thank you. I truly believe that we all need to break our personal bubbles in order to be able to grow together.
Now, I love the title of your book, Strong Roots, Have No Fear. Tell us first why you chose that title and what it means to you.
Well, I was raised juggling between different countries, and I truly believe that if we have a strong, foundation, then we really don't need to fear things around us. Now, fear is a very common emotion that every single person feels. And how do you deal with fear? You deal with taking small steps. And that is what this book is all about. I provide simple talking points that parents can talk with their kids, or even, simple strategies that you can apply daily or depending on your how your family is. So the foundation of this title was actually the fact that I really want every single parent to build a foundation like that for their children.
So tell us about that foundation. What does that mean? What does it mean for our kids to have strong roots?
Well, a strong value system is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Teaching them moderation early, teaching them how to be creative thinkers, to have a growth mindset all early on in life. Because if you teach kids early that they need to be accepting of everyone, especially themselves, that is when they can explore the world more openly and with an open mind. What happens often is people tend to hold on to themselves and their culture so strongly that, it kind of slips out of their fingers, you without even realizing. You forget what is the driving force behind you. So I hope that this book helps parents with that.
I remember as you're talking about that and raising our kids with strong values, I remember having a conversation with the mom. It was at our at the church, at the school where my kids grew up in, the elementary and middle school. And it's a wonderful school, and it is connected with our church. And after the kids graduated, I'm still very involved in it today. But I remember having a conversation with one of the parents there, and they remembered my daughter. My daughter was in college by this time. And she said, "Oh, your daughter is so beautiful, and she has such a great faith, and she's such a great value. I'm really worried about my kids and when they go away to college because, boy, I'm afraid that they're going to be meeting these different folks, and they're going to start questioning their faith and their values." And my response to that was, "Well, that's a wonderful thing." Because, if you raise your kids with great values, it can stand up to questions, and it can stand up to folks who have different values and different perspectives in life.
Yes, and not just standing up. I believe also the simple fact is that when you explore different thought processes is when you end up selecting what works the best for you. Mm-hmm. And that is where the beauty of diversity comes in. When we are so open to different things, like we might be not thinking in a direction which could possibly make our faith stronger and our value system stronger. And it is only when you talk to different kind of people and different different environments, when you're in different environments is when that happens.
I absolutely agree, and I love, it's funny. My wife, I married a beautiful woman whose family is originally from Puerto Rico, and at first her culture it seemed so different. There was a different language, the music was different, the food was different. But the more I got to know her family, and the more I got to know about Puerto Rican culture, the more I understood that, on the surface, this seems different, but, deep down, it's, we're all people, we all have the same things, and we really are more similar than we are different.
Yes. When I was young, I grew up on American television shows. So my parents used to have this perspective of how American life is. But as I raise my kids in an environment that has all kind of people, and I have realized that at the bottom of it all, we all are parents who want our children to be kind, sweet, empathetic, and self-confident. And when all parents are working towards the same goals, why not share and grow together? Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you mentioned early on is that as we're raising our kids to be accepting and respectful of others, we first have to help them be accepting and respectful of themselves and understand the value that they have.
Yes, it is so essential. Because your identity can be easily influenced by a simple question like, where are you from? Or who are you really? Or what do you like to do? Those kind of things. And if our children know very early on in life of what they are and what they stand for, then no amount of external influence can affect them. That's my belief.
Yeah. What about you? You mentioned something, and this is something because I'm fascinated. And when I am performing, I perform educational magic shows, and when I perform in different schools, I will meet kids from different countries, and I'm asking their names. And I'd never met anybody with the name Aditi before, and so very oftentimes I would meet someone with a different name, and I go, "Whoa, where's that? That's such a beautiful name. Where is that name? What culture does that name come from?" And I remember some folks who are really uncomfortable with that, saying, "Oh, you shouldn't ask that. That might make that person feel bad." What's your thought? Because to me, I thought I was showing the ultimate respect in that I was really interested in the person.
I think that's perfect. I think that is what this whole conversation needs to be about, is that we need to be open to asking questions and not discourage our children also from being curious about other cultures. Like I tell everyone that, often we shush our children that, oh, why is that person wearing the scarf? Or why is that person wearing that bindi on the forehead? Why not ask? What's wrong with asking? And how can anyone get offended by something a person does not know? I have yet to meet a person. I am just like you. I love asking people about their cultures. I have been raised in India, but there are a lot of subcultures that I do not know about. And I have friends and I ask them constantly that, why do you do this? What is the reason behind this? And sometimes the answer is just that, oh, my parents have done it, that's why we do it. And a lot more times there is a beautiful story behind it. Mm-hmm. There's a beautiful meaning behind it. And what is better than learning from each other and just having a different experience?
Yeah. And one of the things I think we can teach our kids is that, the way we ask questions can really make a huge difference. If you, yes. You're mentioning the bindi, right? That's the way. Yes. If you go up and you go, what's that thing on your head? It's a lot different than saying, well, that's really interesting. Tell me what that's about.
Beautiful. And that's, I think, the most important thing we need to remember is our tone defines everything. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes people pass remarks and there's a very fine line between being respectful and being obnoxious. Mm-hmm. And we can, we just need to be a little bit aware of the fact that you can offend someone only if you have the intention to. And that intention comes across even in children. Mm-hmm. I know my son is in school and he has lunch and then his friends will be like, oh, why are you eating non-veg? Like, what is this? Why would you possibly do that? And my son feels very bad sometimes, whereas oftentimes there are other times when his friends ask him questions and he answers them and he comes home and tells me that my friends were asking me and I told him that we celebrate Holi for this reason or whatever be it. But even when kids are perceptive enough to understand the difference between someone's tone of them making fun of you or trying to be mean versus someone just being beautifully curious and I think that applies to adults as well, We all just need to be a little bit culturally sensitive to each other in the simple fact that how you say it is beautiful, that, why not? That looks so beautiful and I find that so interesting. Could you tell me more? Mm-hmm. That's all you need to say. I find it interesting. Could you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah. And the other thing too, I think that we forget sometimes and sometimes when we ask a question and the person we're asking doesn't read our tone the way that we intended and can be offended. And instead of us getting defensive about it, we can just go, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I was just curious.
Yes, and that is again true. What often happens is offense actually, the feeling of being offended also comes from a lot of personal experiences. Now, every person is an island unto themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have a different number of experiences. So maybe they have had 15 people ask them that question wrongly or pointedly. And then they feel that, if anyone asks me, that means that person too is, being offensive. Mm-hmm. So often it's unfortunate, unfortunately a sign of someone who's prickly, the fact that they've had past experiences that are bitter. And I think we just need to be more compassionate or maybe just, be okay with backing off. That, okay, fine. Maybe this person is not open to sharing and that's fine, let's just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's those two words, I'm sorry, can be really powerful sometimes, Yeah,
I always say there's nothing wrong in saying sorry. And if it just, what is the point of having a big ego in such a small issue, right? Mm-hmm. You can always just be kind and say, what? I'm sorry, just, it's fine. So, yeah.
Talk a little bit about why you think it is so important. Because for a lot, I'll be honest, they're here in Boston, we had, it's changed a lot, that Boston is growing in the old neighborhoods. They used to be very defined neighborhoods and you could walk in the different neighborhoods, but they were very clear. There was an Irish neighborhood. There was an Italian neighborhood. There was a Spanish neighborhood. There was an African American neighborhood. There was a neighborhood where a lot of folks from Haiti settled, where a lot of folks from Jamaica settled. And a lot of folks, a lot of my cousins who grew up in the Irish neighborhood, they couldn't find their way out of their neighborhood, and all they knew were the folks who lived around them. The world is changing. Talk a little bit about, other than just the fact that it's a nice thing for our kids to be aware of others. What's the real value of helping our kids become citizens of the world and really embrace diversity?
I would say the most important value that this provides is the fact that it is a huge confidence boost when you have multiple experiences. And you cannot possibly travel to 15,000 countries, but every single person you meet has stories to tell. And if you learn from those stories and you imbibe those stories within yourself, you grow immensely. I think that's the most important thing, because like I mentioned earlier, that when we explore a multitude of things, we figure out what fits our personality the best, and we imbibe it, and that makes us stronger within. And if you're strong inside, then there's nothing like it, compared to what you were saying. I was raised, like I mentioned, I was in India and Kuwait, like off and on throughout the first 2 decades of my life. And I was constantly raised in different environments with people speaking 15,000 different languages. I'm exaggerating, but yeah, it was always like, I'm asking for translations, even my mom, But the simple thing was that once I had my kids, I realized that, wow, because now we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Thanksgiving, we celebrate Onam, not just my festivals that my family celebrates, even my kids. And what does celebration means? We just read the stories, we eat the food. And what's better than having a diverse literature in your family? What is better than having diverse food in your family? Because all the different kinds of food you have nourish your body. All the different kind of stories you have nourish your mind. And what else do you want your children to have? There's nothing like it, trust me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. We've hosted international kids in our home, and it was such a blessing. And there was 1 year in particular where we had a young woman from a city called Zhejiang in China, and we were the cool house for the Chinese kids at that school, and it was great. We would have 5 or 6 or 7 young Chinese women in our home almost every weekend, and it was just such a wonder. And it was really wonderful. We one of the things that being open to different cultures and different peoples is you start to understand that when we think of Chinese as being this label that fits these billions of people. But even in China, it's a very diverse country, and they're very different. There's lots of different languages, lots of different ethnicities. I know in India there's 28 official languages or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so important, and it just, and again, once you see that deep down where it really counts is that person really is like me. That person loves their family. They get hungry. They get scared. They feel joy. They love. Once we understand that just melts down all sorts of walls.
We are all human at the end of the day. We are all going to experience the same emotions. We're all going to experience the same failures, same successes at different stages in our lives. So when we see stereotypes happening, which are often a result of, generational patterns. It is not even that one person. There's a long history behind it. So if we need to understand each other, I think it is most important that we experience each other. We talk to each other and just keep building conversation and meeting with each other and, having a lifetime of experiences in even a 5-minute of conversation.
Yeah.
It's always enriching.
And where our kids, we are right now living in a time where, this teeny little podcast, I've had guests on from every single continent except Antarctica. We've been downloaded and listened to on in every continent, including Antarctica. But we've had guests on from, who were in Singapore at the time, and New Zealand, Australia, Cameroon, South Africa, of course, North America, South America, all throughout Europe. And that's just going to become more the norm. And it's not, it's not too hard to imagine that a lot of our kids who are 6, 7, 8 years old right now, they're going to be working in an environment where, they might be on a laptop in Boston or Richmond, Virginia, but their coworkers could be in Mumbai or in Sydney or in Tokyo.
Yeah, that is already the case. My husband works from home, and he has colleagues in New York, he has colleagues in Pune in India, all over the world, in, I think, Fiji also, if I'm not wrong. And that's how the world is, that's the way the world is going. Be it multilingualism, where, that's always wonderful. If you know a different language, if you know a different aspect of a culture, is always useful, because when you're going into a multicultural work environment, that is going to be so much beneficial when you can understand a colleague's inclination towards thinking in a certain way. Because every single job today requires us to, constantly adapt our thinking, because different people come in from different sources onto one team and work together. So, I mean, the world is constantly expanding and shrinking in different manners. The creativity is exploding, whereas the world is getting smaller, in the simple fact that today you and I are having this conversation. You are in a different city, I'm in a different city, but we both want the same thing. We both want kids to grow up to be beautiful human beings.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk more about the fact that your book is in the running for the Global Academy Award, and I definitely want to know more about that, but I was wondering if you could talk to me about this thing that I hear and how you feel about it. I hear this word cultural appropriation, where, if somebody is wearing, a shirt or a dress that came from a culture that they're not naturally a part of, and for some reason that's offensive. I'll be honest, I don't get that. I love, there's this wonderful shirt from the Caribbean called a Guayavera shirt, and I look great in it, and I wear them all the time. And when I was in Costa Rica, I found this beautiful shirt that just has like a kind of a rainbow thing around where the collar would be, and I look great in it. I look very different than all the other old white guys in the neighborhood, but I love it. And to me, I am, saying, I love your culture. I want to be a part of it. But it seems to offend other people. What do you think?
People take offense to what they want to take offense to. You will find millions of people all around the world. Some will have a different point of view on the same topic, no matter what the topic is. I personally don't understand it either. The only perspective I have on this is, if you are wearing clothes or trying a different tradition, as long as you're not mocking it, it is, and you're doing it respectfully, I think it's absolutely fine. Now, if you are putting a Indian Hindu god's image on a doormat or underwear, I would think that's completely wrong and disrespectful. I would take offense to that. But if you are, praying, or if you're just standing in a temple and not choosing not to pray, but standing quietly and being respectful, I appreciate that, So those are the kind of things that you need to understand, that people have to give each other the space to be themselves and accept the traditions in the way they are. I have personally, in my home, a lot of our traditions have evolved. I have chosen to, Rakhi is a celebration which is supposed to be where the sister ties thread to the brother and then he gives her a gift. In my home, it is that they both tie to each other now and they both exchange gifts. Or rather, nowadays, since I'm trying to get them to be financially more thoughtful, so I give them both one gift, like one board game for both of you. So those are the kind of things. So I think when offense is taken, offense should be taken if it is you're being disrespectful. But like I think Nas Daily had recently had a wedding, wearing the Indian clothes and stuff, and people had taken offense to that. I don't think that you should take offense to it because he's just experiencing. Now, if he was making a comedy take on the same thing, then I think yes, some people might be justified in taking offense, but I personally don't understand it. I don't like just because someone's wearing a costume or doing something else, like on Halloween, if you're wearing wearing a sari and calling it a costume, that makes no sense. So it's like a fine line, you need to, that's where cultural sensitivity comes in, where you understand that a sari is not a costume, it's a thing to wear. So if you're going to an Indian festival and wearing a sari, or you're going to an Indian's house and wearing a sari, it's beautiful, you're participating in the culture. Whereas if you are wearing a sari and saying, hey, you know what, I'm wearing a costume, I think that's wrong.
Beautiful. Kind of what we were talking about earlier when we're asking questions. If someone's asking us a question, or if someone's wearing something that is from our culture, maybe we should just, before we get upset about it, just take a minute and try to determine where they're coming from and what their intention is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything goes both ways. I think that culturally sensitive thoughtfulness comes all in the fact of understanding that two people have had varied experiences in their past. So how a question is asked and how a person reacts and how a person reacts to your participating in their festival in a good or bad way, all these things all have background to it. And again, that's where the personal stories come in. Like when you have people who are prickly and are, irritated constantly, of course they're going through something bad at home. They might not be telling you about it, but they are experiencing something, and maybe you just need to give them that space or be empathetic and ask, hey, is something wrong? But I think these are all things that we need to be a little bit more mindful of today. And I think, unfortunately, because of targeted social media, people tend to only see things that what they're constantly seeing, and that thoughtfulness is going away.
Yeah.
I mean, I think personally in the generation above mine, like my parents' generation, they somehow assume respect. Like it used to be that, if you're older, you tend to take respect. So they have always said whatever, the first thing that comes in their mind without any care for the person in front of them. But now I think our generation is trying to understand and evolve. And I think that's beautiful, that we are all collectively trying to make the effort. The success of my book is testament, I constantly say, to the fact that there are parents out there who want what's in the book. There are parents who want to feel empowered. My book doesn't have magical formula. I don't claim to be the perfect parent. I claim to wanting to evolve. I say that parenting is like, a child's world is like a country onto itself, right? Like you have to adapt and understand and learn from them as much as you teach them. So, that's what all of us want from each other.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned that your book is up for the Global Academy Award. That must be incredibly exciting for you.
Oh, it is. I am worried. It's in 2 weeks now, and I constantly feel worried, and everyone around me tells me, you keep forgetting you made it here among thousands of entries. You have to appreciate that. I said, yes, I do. Of course I do. And again, I'm so thankful for everyone who has helped the book and the judges who have pushed the book forward. It is a beautiful encouragement to all the writers on our platform who have ever written for us. It's a beautiful encouragement to our next project, which is coming up, which is a collaborative project of 25 mothers from all around the world coming together to talk about building a global mindset for our children. So it's just beautiful, and I'm so excited that, I'll be getting to present in front of the judges, and hopefully, if we win, we'll be getting to present on a global platform. So that's very exciting.
That is really exciting. Now, I know folks are going to want to know more. I mentioned raisingworldchildren.com earlier on. What will folks find if they go to that website?
Strategies to help you in any different cultural aspect of your life. When I speak about culture, I understand, and I hope that everyone understands that I speak about culture in reference to the kind of life you lead. be it if it is a child with allergies, be it if you have disabilities. And of course, we talk about religion and different walks of life and travel and all that good stuff too.
That is great.
And choices people make.
Mm-hmm. I'm really excited. The website just has so much content, and I think it's really just a super resource for families, and I definitely think folks should check it out.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have had this opportunity to tell people about my little book that is trying to make a little bit of difference in this world.
Yeah. Well, the name of that little book that's making a big impact on the world is Strong Roots Have No Fear. And we've been talking to the author of Strong Roots Have No Fear and the driving force behind RaisingWorldChildren.com, Aditi Wardhan Singh. Aditi, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Danielle Dufayet. She is coming back. We're so excited. We love welcoming back friends to the show. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Danielle Dufayet. If you are the author of a great children's book, we'd love to become friends with you too and have you on the podcast to celebrate your fantastic children's book. Being a guest, it's fun. I mean, look at how many guests always want to come back. It's easy. And it gives you the chance to tell thousands and thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button at the bottom of the page. Let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very, very wonderful. Aditi Wardhan Singh. Be sure to check out her book, Strong Roots Have No Fears. I want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan, for all that she does for the show. Check out her blog at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. And I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to let your kids know they are the most important thing in your life. And you do that, and you make the world a better place every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.